about that offense, they have actually been a semi-decent to good offense since July 9th. Now, why is July 9th so important? Well, you highlighted this a little bit on one of our social videos we posted this week about, well, what is the significance of July 9th? Well, July 9th is the day that Jorge Polanco turned his season around and has been hitting significantly better since that point. The Mariners, over the stretch since then, are 10% better than league average as an offense as a whole. So here's what this includes, right? So over this stretch, they're 13th in baseball in WRC+, an above average offense. How refreshing. Really? How refreshing is that? But that stretch includes getting shut out by Zach Wheeler on Sunday, which, by the way, if you cherry pick this stat and you exclude Sunday from the sample size, the Mariners go from having the 13th best offense in this stretch in Major League Baseball to having the 6th best offense over that stretch in Major League Baseball. Yeah, let me repeat myself. Take the 9 innings against Zach Wheeler and whoever pitched out of the Phillies bullpen to end Sunday's game, throw that away. And the Mariners, since July 9th, have the 6th best offense in baseball. And that includes the 6 losses in a row to the Angels. It includes that. They've been the 6th best in all of baseball.
It includes the 6 losses in a row to the Angels and includes that series at home against the Astros where they lost 2 of 3. And in 2 of those games, the 2 games that they lost, they looked just absolutely,
inept.
Inept at the plate. I was going to say lost again, but lost, inept, however you want to phrase it. Look at that home series. So all of this includes that home series where the Mariners played the Astros and then the Angels. They lost 5 of 6 games in that series, or in that homestand. Those 5 games that the Mariners lost in that homestand, they combined for 5 runs in those 5 losses. And all of that combined, they are the 6th best offense in baseball from July the 9th till August the 4th. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think that is?
So there's a couple factors. One is Jorge Polanco turning his season around, hadn't gotten any offensive production out of your second base spot until that point, which was refreshing. One of the reasons is a guy we're going to talk about with the second storyline in Victor Robles, who could honestly be tabbed as one of the saviors of this offense and the season, period. But this isn't a hot take. The number one driving factor of this offense over that stretch is Cal Raleigh and how he's turned it around. He has managed to keep his same power output over that time frame, which is a little less than a month, while dropping his strikeout rate under 20%. 20%. Cal Raleigh on the season right now, even with this stretch, is striking out 30% of the time. And that strikeout rate earlier in the season was hovering close to 35%. But this last month, even though he's been getting beat up, he has been relied upon more behind the plate with Mitch Garver's struggles. So there's been more pressure on him to perform. And man, this dude is stepping up to the plate and just mashing. And it's flown under the radar, too, because it's been, I think for a lot of people, it has been Robles and it has been Polanco and then Arozarena when they trade for him that are getting most of the attention right now. And you know what? Those guys are a blast, and they deserve every bit of attention they've gotten. But don't sleep on Cal Raleigh. Don't sleep on that man. He, out of all those guys, he's been on top of them all when it comes to offensive production in this stretch.
So there's 2 buckets to this conversation. There's the individuals now taking a step forward in the last month, and there's the numbers that the team itself has put together. But since we're on the topic of the individuals, yeah. So you talked about Robles. We're going to spend more time on him later. You talked about Cal. There's some other guys that have really stepped up in this offense, too. You talked about Polanco, but just to give some context. So Julio and Randy over this stretch have not played 10 games in a Mariner uniform, in a uniform, either of them. Like Randy's played 7 games. Julio in this stretch has played 9 because he's been on the IL. When those guys have been in, though, they've been great. Like their WRC pluses are way, way over 150. Julio's is in like the 250s range. But again, He's played about 9 games. Randy's played 7. Point being, when those guys have been in the lineup, they've been very good. But it gets better. So if you want to add context to some of these numbers with Cal, not only has he dropped his strikeout rate, but since July 9th up until August 4th, 953 OPS, 163 WRC plus, 8 bombs. Victor Robles, just a quick little highlight here of him before we dive in later. 914 OPS, 164 WRC plus. He is striking out 14% of the time in that stretch. Polanco, 877 OPS, 147 WRC plus, also striking out less, 22%. And one final name, a guy who's really caught some strays from Mariners fans over the last month and a half, 2 months, but is all of a sudden starting to turn his season around. Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger since July the 9th. 872 OPS, 154 WRC plus. He is walking 19% of the time over the last month. So you look at those guys. You can talk about Julio and Randy in a small sample, but those two, Robles, Cal, Haniger, Polanco, even if you want to throw Dylan Moore into this, he hasn't been some star, but he's got a 107 WRC plus in the stretch. He's been an above average bat. That is the majority of the lineup that has all come together and done a total 180 on what this season's been for the offense.
So I guess all you need to do is tell a player he's going to get cut, and he'll turn a season around.
Yeah, there you go.
You named 3 instances. Robles, Polanco, and Mitch Haniger.
Yeah. And if you want to throw Justin Turner into this group of guys too, you can. It's the same thing as Julio and Randy, where he's only played a couple games in a Mariners uniform. But if you want to take a 4-game sample, 119 WRC plus. Again, super, super small sample, but he has hit in his first few games here. So that is how many guys have we just list off? Turner included. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys who have all been above average hitters or way better than above average in the last month over this stretch. So this is what's turned the offense around.
I'm going to say it again. It is almost like when players play like they're supposed to, the offense works.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like that's how it's supposed to work. When you build a roster, you anticipate the players playing well. If you do build a roster and you anticipate your players not playing well, then I respect that. That actually seems more difficult than doing the previous thing I just mentioned. So credit to you on that. But think of it in this context of the fact of thinking about how it was last year and the 2 guys entering this season that the Mariners were going to rely upon for most of their offense, or the biggest percentage of their offense from those 2 positions was going to be Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford again, because they were the 2 best hitters on your roster last year, and you anticipated in a best-case scenario they would also, again, be the 2 best hitters on this current roster as well. Hasn't been the case this year. Julio has played 9 games and X amount of at-bats of the totality of this stretch, which has turned the Mariners' offense around. He's been just such a small, tiny piece, and instead it has been everybody else, all the complementary pieces that we've just been begging for to give support to Julio and to JP as well, and they've instead been the ones that have sort of picked everyone else up. In case you're curious over that stretch, by the way, JP is a WRC plus before he got hurt in that stretch in the 70s. So he wasn't contributing to that. It's been the other guys.
No, and you need more from Josh Rojas. You need more from Luke Raley right now. You need more from Mitch Garver. Those are the guys that have still not exactly come around yet offensively. But again, when you list off 8 guys that are all of a sudden doing what they're supposed to be doing, that is a real sizable piece of your offense. I know people were not happy in May and June, and neither were we. It was a brutal offense to try and watch. But that was a collective group that was all at the same time having near career worst seasons. Now when we're finally starting to see these guys come out of it and do what they're supposed to be doing, with the addition of somebody like Victor Robles being such a welcome surprise, the Mariners offense can do this. Are they the best offense in baseball? No. Are they ever going to be the best offense in baseball this year in 2024? No. But they don't have to be. If they can do some form of this the rest of the way, it can work in the playoffs. What did I say? From August 1st and on, post-trade deadline, be the 12th best offense. Be somewhere in the top 12, 14, and it can work.
Think of how much better you have to get at not striking out to drop your strikeout rate by nearly 2% in a month. on July 9th, I'm pretty sure their strikeout rate was almost 30 as a team. It is 27.5% now as a team for the season. Not over the stretch. For the season, it is now 27.5%. Now, that is still overall a very high mark, but the fact that you were able to drop it 2% over that stretch is truly remarkable. I'm gonna just say I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I thought they were going to keep striking out. Even if they were going to score runs, they were going to still strike out a ton. Because that's what this team is. But over the stretch, it's a 24.8% strikeout rate. Still high. Still one of the highest marks in big league history. But it's certainly better than almost 30%. That's a lot more balls in play. It's an option to move a runner over, hit him in on a sac fly, do something besides getting immediate out, and hey, maybe even luck into a base hit or something. It's remarkable.
Their mark since July 9th ranks 9th. It's not great. It's also not first. You're not in the top 5. That's a pretty massive improvement from where they've been a lot of the year, because now you have guys that are not going to strike out left and right all the time. Victor Robles doesn't strike out that much. Jorge Polanco's cut his strikeout rate down. Justin Turner doesn't strike out much. This helps. Now, there are guys in the lineup that'll still strike out. Cal's still going to strike out a bit. Julio's still going to strike out a bit. Well, not in this stretch, but I don't... Do you think Cal Raleigh's going to be a 20% strikeout guy the rest of his career?
No. But I will say what does contribute is with the emergence of Victor Robles, again, we will get to him here in a second. With Robles playing as well as he is, Luke Raley's not playing every day now. Raley's a 30% strikeout rate. Dom's hurt, hasn't played a lot. This year he's been a 30% strikeout rate. So if you have a 14% strikeout rate guy playing in the outfield over two 30+% strikeout rate guys on that position alone instead, then that helps. And then there's the Jorge Polanco note we pointed out last week where he dropped his strikeout rate over this stretch from 30% to 21%. So what is that? It's like almost 3 positions you're dropping from 30s into at like the ceiling is 20, if not lower.
Mm-hmm. It's great. That's a huge, huge step forward. They're not going to be the lowest strikeout team in baseball. That's just not how this team's built. But again, if they don't lead the league the rest of the year, if they're around the number 9 mark, I think everybody will take that at this point because it's such a step forward from where it was once upon a time. Such a step forward. Like, if you want to look at what they've done as a team now, because we're talking about where their strikeout rate ranks in this stretch since July 9th, but there's some other things they've done well, too. First off, and this is actually pretty alarming, they're not getting lucky. This isn't luck, what they're doing in the last month. Their BABIP as a team is 24th in baseball right now. It's 274. So what that says is not only are they not a product of good luck, they could actually get more luck as time goes on. This is them actually turning this thing around in a very real way.
And it's not because they've hit the most homers. They haven't. I think they're 8th in homers over that stretch. It's 30.
So over this stretch, they are top 10 and toward the bottom half of the top 10 in home runs, also in offensive F4, in WOBA, and on base, in walk rate over that stretch.
But remember, in reference to BABIP, homers are never in play, so that doesn't help your BABIP at all. That's 30 hits that don't count.
Right.
So it could... You could say, well, you just if you're first in homers, but your BABIP is low, it's like, well, because you're scoring all of your runs on homers. Well, the Mariners are hitting a decent amount of home runs, but not the most.
Right.
It's not their prime. It's not primary source is the wrong word because they still do score a lot of their runs on home runs, but not more than others.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And that's a good sign. That's what this offense was built to do, to not be a 3-outcome offense or a 2-outcome offense, strike out, home run. Find other ways to score runs. They're doing that now.
Oh, and they're first in walk rate now. Second in walk rate.
That is one thing that this team has done all year that maybe isn't appreciated enough, but we're highlighting here. They do walk a lot. This team walks a lot. Jorge Polanco, for as much as he struggled this year, walks a lot. Mitch Haniger, the last month, is walking 19% of the time. There are guys that do draw their walks.
But it was offset by all the strikeouts.
Right.
It just, like they didn't walk. They were walking a decent amount earlier, but not enough to offset the strikeout rate. But now that the strikeout rate is heading down and the walk rate is ticked up in the same stretch, it shows it a lot better. Just remember, guys, in 2022, when the Mariners made the playoffs and they had a top 10 offense by WRC+, a big chunk of that offense was the fact that they drew walks almost better than everyone in baseball. I don't think they were first. They were top 3, I think, in 2022 in terms of walk rate. It was good. And this offense is right in that same boat now when it comes to walking and reaching base. And they need it to offset the fact that hits-wise and batting average-wise, they don't get on base enough that way, and they have to make up for it by getting on base via a walk. Because their on-base percentage, Lyle, is still not great overall for the season. It's .302, and that's not a great on-base percentage. But if you want to look at the sample, since July 9th, it's .319, which is better. Still not great, but it is better.
It's in the top 10 since the stretch started. It's not bad.
Right. Better. Again, better.
Yeah. And better is all we can ask for. Again, they are not going to be the Orioles offensively. They're just not. But they can be a league average offense or even slightly above. Last year's offense, for as many problems as that offense had, was 9th by WRC+, I believe, at the end of the year. That, like, the Mariners can be in that range. I still believe when everybody's at their best, and that's still not even happening right now because, Rayleigh needs to get hot again. Garver could still turn some things around. When everybody's at their best, I still believe this is a better offense than last year's offense. But now we're starting to see a little bit of the turn here of what this team was supposed to be offensively.
Last point from me. Over this same stretch, the Mariners pitching staff is an ERA of 3.18. If you play enough games with this combination, you should feel pretty good about winning 58 to 60% of your games, which, in case you're curious, is a slam dunk playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
Play enough games, sustain this for 2 more months, and you will make the playoffs. I promise you. I guarantee it. If you do this, look at me, I'm making a guarantee right now. If you keep this up offensively and your pitching staff doesn't collapse, you will make the playoffs.
Correct.
The numbers, literally, the numbers are so much in your favor that it would take a monumental fuck up to not.
Look at what happened with Bryce Miller on Saturday. The Mariners, once in a blue moon, will have a starter that doesn't put together a great outing. Bryce Miller didn't have his best outing on Saturday. The offense picked him up, stormed back from a 5-run deficit, and won the game in extra innings. 2 weeks ago, would you have said this offense has any chance if they even got down 2-0?
No. And definitely not if they have to face Estevez for 2 innings at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. But this offense, the offense right now, they did.
Yeah.
They did mount the comeback. They did win that game. They took the series because now they're starting to play a lot better. And the key here, like you said, please keep it up. Don't let this be a one-and-done thing. Don't let this just be one good stretch. Keep it up the rest of the year. And there's reason to believe that they will with, again, the acquisitions they made, guys starting to play well. You're going to get Julio back. We expect in the next few days here, it's kind of unclear still, but we expect at some point in the next few days. And that's going to help a lot.